Hey team, today I want to show you my approach to auditing a web page using growth therapy as an example. What we're going to do is look at this page, which is having some trouble ranking for a core keyword, and we're going to try to determine some of the reasons why just by looking at the page content. Now, I know that there could be many other reasons on the technical side or the backlink side, but today's video is focusing on page content and my approach to auditing it. So first things first, here's the page. It is their Therapist in New York page. When we search that query, I'll do a quick Command F and look for the domain, and nothing is showing up. So they're really struggling for this keyword. And one of the first things I'll do is kind of look at the page and try to break it up into sections and see if I can audit things that way. So what I see is the first section here, top of page content. We'll just call that section 1. Next are the therapist cards, which I'll call section 2. And then way down here at the bottom, we're looking at section 3, which are frequently asked questions. So this divides up pretty nicely. The next thing you want to do is look at some pages that are ranking really well and try to find sites that are direct competitors. They're very similar to your client's site. And a couple I found that were great are ZenCare and ZocDoc. So let's look at ZenCare, and let's think of the first section, which is the top of page content. Now, right off the bat, I see a really prominent and optimized H1. I don't really see that on the growth therapy side. And the next thing I see is much more top of page content. Now, initially, it doesn't take up as much room, which is great. But if you click here and you want to see more, there is more. And there's a lot more here. Again, if we go back and compare, this is really thin compared to this. And the reason this is so effective is because when someone searches something like therapists in New York, Google is going to look for documents that satisfy that query the best. And all this language actually supports that primary keyword quite well. And so something I did was I used the Harpa AI Chrome extension, which can read the web pages that you're on. And I asked it what words and phrases from the following text would cluster most closely to a query vector embedding like therapists in New York. So basically that means what terms and phrases from this text here are most closely related to the primary keyword. And basically it gave me a list, and you can see in this list are things like anxiety, depression, work stress, so conditions or symptoms. Then we've got things like talk therapy, psychotherapy, psychologists, social workers. So there's all these related terms that are supporting this document as being about therapists in New York. So that's why this longer form content is more effective than this, in my opinion. The next thing we want to look at are the therapist cards. So let's take a look at those. Now, ZenCares are really good. They have, at least on desktop, 2 per row, which is really good. You can see a lot more therapists than you can, let's say, on growth therapies, which is just 1 at a time. They're also much more scannable. So right here I can see Henry's a therapist that treats Asian identity and mental health, anxiety, depression, etc. I can see all the conditions he treats. I can see that he's vetted, and I've got a check cost estimate option, which is great because it pulls me in to continue interacting with the page. And Google might read this and associate it with a better user experience. So maybe it's helping there. When I go to ZocDoc, again, I can see the therapist. I can see what kind of therapist they are. I can see that they're verified with reviews. I can also see a recent patient review, and this is all very scannable. It's very quick, and I'm getting a lot of trust signals, a lot of options to interact with interesting content. On the growth therapy side, this is by no means poor, but I don't think it's as good. I find these less effective, and I also find just the paragraph here less scannable. Just overall, the card is not quite as scannable. Things don't jump out at me as much, and I'm not quite as compelled to click in and interact. The other cards invited me to check a cost estimate or read a recent patient review. Those are really compelling and draw me in, and this kind of doesn't do that as well. And the third bit I wanted to look at were the FAQs. Now, these are really important, and it's important that you get these right. And I think the competitors are getting them right, and I think growth therapy is missing a little bit in terms of their FAQs. Here's the kind of check that I did. I searched the query therapist in New York, and I keep clicking people also ask questions until they expand. And then I use Harpa AI and ask it, what are the common themes in the people also ask questions? And some of the common themes it called out were cost and pricing and finding the right therapist. It called out others, but we'll keep it just at those two for simplicity's sake. So cost and finding the right therapist. Now, when you go to ZenCare, I actually used Harpa for this too, just so I didn't have to read through them all. Do these FAQs address the cost of therapy? Yes, they do. They provide information about coverage, fees, and options for finding affordable therapy. Do they address how to find the right therapist? Yes, they do. And I could have kept going with more themes, but these FAQs are clearly very helpful to people, and they address the people also ask questions. Now, why is this important? Well, because people also ask questions based on a query are normally the most likely next questions that someone is going to ask. So if your document has these questions in it and addresses them, then you're kind of forcing Google to see your content as highly relevant and useful. If you look at growth therapies, I don't see them addressing cost, not as well, or actually not at all. And I don't really see them addressing how to find the right therapist. So these FAQs are much less useful. They're much less tethered to what the people also ask questions actually are. And just one pro tip, you can do this how I did it, like in the SERP, or you can use a tool like alsoasked.com, which gives you a lot more questions a lot more easily, and it groups them really nicely. So it's much easier to find common themes when you use this tool. So those three things I think are some of the more important things to look at when we're reviewing at least this page. And I wanted to do this exercise to give you an idea of how I approach auditing page content. I do like to section it out and look at top ranking content from competitors that are very, very similar to my client. And then I try to make some determinations as to why Google might not be choosing this content as a highly relevant document that should rank well. I think we found a lot in today's review. I could create some really good recommendations based off of these findings. And from there, I could take it to the backlink side of things or the technical side of things. I could talk about structural links and anchor text and how we're serving this content on the website itself. But like I said, today's focus was just a page content audit, I hope you found it useful, and if you did, please give the video a like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks so much.